Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Raw in Wonderland. Grab your coffee like me, and let's embark on a journey to ancient Alexandria, where wisdom, courage, and curiosity flourished in the form of one remarkable woman, Hypatia. She was a philosopher, a mathematician, an astronomer, and, if you ask me, a true badass of her time. A woman who lived 1,600 years ago, yet still speaks to us today through her ideas, her intellect, and her unwavering courage. And let's be honest, if I could have a mentor from history, Hypatia would definitely be on my list. So, who was she? What made her a legend? And why did her brilliance make people so uncomfortable that they literally couldn't handle her existence? Let's dive in. Hypatia was born around 370 AD in Alexandria, a city that was basically the intellectual capital of ancient world. Imagine a place where the most brilliant minds gathered, discussing philosophy, science, and the mysteries of the universe. Sounds dreamy, right? Her father, Theon of Alexandria, was a well-known mathematician and astronomer. But instead of raising her to fit the traditional mold of a woman at that time, marriage, children, and silence, he chose to raise a scholar. He educated Hypatia in philosophy, math, astronomy, and even poetry. He encouraged her to question everything, challenge dogma, and above all, think for herself. Now, let's pause for a moment. This was 1,600 years ago, a time when most women weren't even allowed an education, let alone the freedom to become a philosopher. And yet, here she was, teaching, writing, questioning the very foundations of belief and knowledge. And you know what's fascinating? She wasn't just admired, she was feared because people in power feared those who think for themselves, especially when that person is a woman. Hypatia wasn't just a scholar, she was a revolutionary thinker. She rejected blind faith and encouraged rational thought. She believed that nothing should be accepted as the final truth without questioning it first, and she made sure her students did the same. One of her famous teachings was, reserve your right to think, for even to think wrongly is better than not to think at all. I mean, can we just take a moment to appreciate how modern this idea is? She wasn't saying reject all beliefs. She was saying use your mind, ask questions, doubt, rethink, and then decide for yourself. If you ever found yourself questioning old beliefs, traditions, or ideas that were handed down to you without explanation, then congratulations, you and Hypatia would have been great friends. Now, let's not forget, Hypatia wasn't just a philosopher. She was also an inventor and scientist. She contributed to astronomy, maths, and even practical innovations that helped with things like water purification and navigation. She and her father worked on revising the works of Euclid, Ptolemy, and other Greek mathematicians, ensuring that their knowledge was preserved and passed down. But here is a fun fact. Her mathematical contributions were so significant that until the 17th century, the world basically ran on the knowledge she helped preserve. Yep, 1,200 years after her death, the foundations of math and geometry were still based on her teachings, talking about a lasting impact. And in case you're wondering, yes, she was also a bit of a celebrity. In Raphael's famous painting, The School of Athens, she is the only woman depicted among the greatest philosophers. That's right, while Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are there discussing the universe, Hypatia is standing among them, as she should be. If there is one thing that truly defines Hypatia, it's her courage. She refused to conform to societal expectations. She never married. She never bent to the will of religious or political leaders. And she never stopped teaching, even when it became dangerous. And let me tell you, it became very dangerous. During her lifetime, Alexandria was a chaotic place. The Roman Empire was transitioning from paganism to Christianity, and power struggles were intense. Religious factions were at war, and anyone who challenged authority, especially a woman, was a target. And Hypatia, she refused to pick sides. She stood for knowledge, reason, and intellectual freedom rather than political or religious power. But people don't like what they can't control, and this made her enemies. In a brutal and heartbreaking event, Hypatia was murdered by a Christian mob. They saw her as a threat, a woman with too much influence and too much intelligence, too much independence. They accused her of heresy, and she was killed in one of history's most tragic examples of fear destroying wisdom. But here is the thing, they didn't win. Because Hypatia isn't just remembered, she's honored. Her legacy has outlived her enemies by centuries. And every time we challenge an outdated idea, every time we embrace knowledge over ignorance, every time we dare to think freely, we continue what she started. So, my dear Wonderlanders, what can we take from Hypatia's story? First one, question everything. Never accept something as truth just because someone tells you it is. Rethink, challenge, be curious. Courage matters as much as knowledge. What's the use of wisdom if you're too afraid to use it? Hypatia wasn't just brilliant, she was fearless. You don't have to fit into a box. She refused to be just a mathematician, just a philosopher, just a woman. She was everything she wanted to be, and so can we. Knowledge belongs to everyone. Science, philosophy, and art should never be controlled by the powerful few. They are for all of humanity. Think for yourself. If there is one message Hypatia left for us, it's this. Your mind is your own. Never let anyone take that away from you. Hypatia may have lived 1,600 years ago, but her spirit is alive in every single one of us who dares to ask, what if there is another way? So, my dear Wonderlanders, as we wrap up today's episode, I leave you with this. Keep questioning, keep thinking, keep being fearlessly yourself. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, thinking freely is the most powerful thing you can do. Bye, guys!